All right, so in this module, we ask the question, what is genetic information? So this DNA, what is it? What does it do? Well, in general, DNA is said to encode for biomolecules that are called proteins. You'll remember proteins. Proteins are the tiny molecular machines that do things inside of your body that keep you alive. In essence, life is what proteins do. For example, some of these proteins are enzymes. Enzymes are certain proteins that speed up chemical reactions. They perform a number of tasks that are essential for cells to live. One example of a protein is DNA polymerase. You will recall that DNA polymerase is the protein that replicates DNA. Another example of DNA that some organisms encode in their genes is called hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is a protein found in your red blood cells, and it actually holds on to the oxygen that it gets from your lung cells, and it takes those oxygen molecules to all the cells in your body so that they can burn your food to make ATP. So genetic information, DNA, encodes for biomolecules. It is the information for the cell to make a protein. DNA is essentially a blueprint for the cell to construct proteins. So, the gene. What is the gene? A gene is a tiny piece of your DNA. You've got something on the order of 25,000 genes in every single cell in your body. A gene is a sequence of nitrogenous bases in a DNA molecule that encodes or codes for a protein. The length of a gene can vary widely from hundreds of base pairs in length to hundreds of thousands. It basically depends on how big the protein needs to be. Small proteins require small genes, whereas big proteins require longer genes. The bigger the gene, the bigger the protein. So what you're looking at here in the figure, this tube right here, that is actually a piece of your DNA. So it doesn't really look like the double helix, but just imagine for me that that is the double helix that is DNA. So in this model, you see two tiny segments of that gene that are called, or two tiny segments of that DNA that are called a gene. I want to talk about the structure of the gene. The first part of the gene that I want you to note is this blue region right here. That's the promoter region of the gene. That doesn't actually contain instructions for making the protein. That's a signal to tell the RNA polymerase to start. The next part of the gene is this red region right there. And this is the actual part of the gene that codes for the enzyme. This is the information, the genetic information. Finally, when you get to the end of the gene, there is what we call a stop codon, and this is a signal to the cell's machinery that the gene has ended. So this represents the end of the gene. So the gene is composed of the promoter region, of the coding region, and the end. You will also notice that there are some gray pieces between the genes. These are called introns. And we don't really know what introns are there for. They appear to be worthless pieces of DNA. So in every single cell in your body, you have got 23 pairs of chromosomes, 46 in total. Each of these chromosomes is composed of a ton of DNA, and each of them encodes for many, many proteins. Again, in humans, there are somewhere on the order of 25,000 genes. We don't really know how many genes there are yet, but 25,000 seems to be a good number, good roundabout number. A genome is the collection of all the genes that an organism possesses. The smallest genome that we know about, at least the last time I checked, is from a bacterium called Mycoplasma genitalium. Note the last name. This bacteria happens to infect people. It is a STD, and that bacterium's genome only encodes for about 485 genes. Anyway, that's what genes are.